Hello, this is a special showing of the Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Today is May 22nd, 2013, and I'm Larry Rhodes.
And I'm Faithless Forrest, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people curious about living a life free of supernatural beliefs. Should we ask our third host to join in?
Certainly.
Hi, I'm Jonas Holdeman.
All right.
Okay. And for over 2 years, the regular time of this show has been 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. However, because of the scheduling of another program this week, we have, for this week and next week only, 2 weeks, we've been moved to this half-hour evening slot. And this is a call-in show, so do we have anybody?
I don't think we have anyone on the phones.
Okay, nobody on the phone, no call-ins.
All right.
We invite you to watch us for the next half hour.
And we might be able to receive tweets. Do you have your machine up?
I do, but
All right.
we'll have to bring it up. The show is a production of the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists and individual supporters and guests.
For the benefit of viewers new to our show, we will discuss, explain how we used words theism, atheism, and an unrelated word, agnosticism.
And we want to thank you viewers for being with us today, and let's thank our sponsors. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun meetup group, often at a bar or restaurant. Tuesday's meetup is at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in the Old City. Usually starts right after the show, about 6 o'clock. Friday, we meet at Beard and Beer Market about 5:30 for happy hour. To find us, look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee have monthly activities on the first and third Sunday mornings. They're usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday of the month is an afternoon book club. June's book is Collapse: How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed by Jared Diamond. The fourth Sunday is the Reflections Gathering, which is a potluck afternoon get-together at a member's home with a discussion topic.
We'll give you the web addresses later in the program. Now it's time for the news.
All right.
Oh, there's a lot in the news. The recent terrible tornado in Oklahoma reminds us of other storms and man-made violence that bring a special problem for the secular community and its members.
While we understand and feel the same pain over loss of and injury to loved ones, we find it rather painful when religious persons unthinkingly force their mistaken worldview on us. We often hesitate to respond as if we are using a tragedy of others to advance our own agenda. But our usual silence should not be reinforcing a tacit assumption that in times of trouble, non-believers fall back on prayer and believe. It is just that we are usually more polite than our praying fellow citizens. We are usually too polite to push back.
So here's an insight for theists. It is very painful for us to listen and remain polite when you tell us a deceased loved one is in a better place. Try to think it through, please. We have concluded that this is the one and only life. Once again, we think that it means that think what it means when you say that our lost loved one is in a better place rather than still with us in the only life that we know.
Can we show the image of the tornadoes and the other? There you go.
There's certainly been a rash of those things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And
right behind Jonas, there's a picture of Wolf Blitzer and a lady that he was interviewing after the tornado struck.
Yeah.
That's hard to see. It's kind of a low picture, but at the end of it, he asked her if she thought she should thank the Lord for delivering her from the tornado, and she told him that she was an atheist. Atheists are victims of these things too. We just don't react the same way with prayers and pushing our religion as others would have.
all right. Should we? I guess we're moving on here to. Here we go.
Okay, should you be judged in a court of law by your religion? Should your religious practices be used against you there?
An online article on the website unpious.com reports this is exactly what happened to, and I hope I don't mangle her name, Kelly Meisner.
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 We could have that image, please.
All right. You want to?
Yes. In a ruling dated April 22nd, 2013, Judge Sherry L. Eisenpress of Rockland County Family Court ordered the custody transfer despite the children's express wishes from the mother to the father. The judge acknowledged that the mother had been the primary caretaker for the children, and that the children were extremely bonded to her, and that she appeared to be far more involved and vigilant in the care of these children than the father. Still, the judge worried that the mother's lax religious observance would tremendously confuse and harm the children.
I must admit, that seems kind of like a throwback to things I'd heard about how family court was conducted in the first half of the 20th century, that almost by default, fathers were given custody, and women were almost treated as if they were, some kind of fallen person whenever a divorce occurred.
Yeah, but that was usually Christianity. In this particular case, the people were Orthodox Jewish.
It made me wonder about this judge, and if she's part of that community as well, and judging from a religious perspective. Mm-hmm. All right, well, it is an outrage that a judge would even accept evidence about the religiosity of a plaintiff, much less make it central to a judgment. This judge sounds like a Bronze Age throwback. This is not a third world country. This is New York. And one has to ask, is this the beginning of an official persecution of non-believers in America? One where they will actually take a child away from you if you don't believe in the religion of the judge.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, well, I guess it's my turn.
Sure. Go for
it. This is titled, Blount County Commission Holds Off on Prayer Resolution. Maryville, the Blount County Commission, on advice of counsel, delayed consideration of a proposed resolution that would have affirmed the body's right to open its meetings with a prayer. Craig L. Garrett, Blount County attorney, said in a letter to the commissioners that he is researching the issue and will update the commission regarding the legal ramifications of this issue in the near future.
All right.
The Commissioner Tab Burkhalter said the board got an avalanche of unsolicited opinions from the various lawyers in the county commenting on the legal aspects of virtually every paragraph of the resolution. I can imagine. They took the resolution, he said, and tore it to pieces. The resolution arose in response to a claim that by the Freedom from Religion Foundation that the prayer that opens every commission meeting violates the concept of separation of church and state.
And I'm a resident of Blount County, and I attend those meetings. And in virtually every meeting I've ever attended, the minister or pastor has prayed in Jesus' name. And in fact, at that meeting, they had a prayer held at the beginning of it. Everyone was commanded to rise, and then, while we're all standing, then they had a minister or pastor make a prayer that included references to specific deities, Jesus. Right. Mm-hmm. And I also noticed that they put on their website videos of past meetings, and in most of the past meetings I've looked at, I think every past meeting I've looked at, the prayer was in the video. Mm-hmm. But on the meeting last Thursday, when they put that video up, they started it immediately after the prayer was done and the Pledge of Allegiance was being led. Yeah. So I think they're running scared.
You might think that they're going to pull the old ones out and re-edit them and put them back up. I don't know. Yeah. But one thing about this is that many of these counties, and it's happening all over the South, are scared to death that they're going to put out a resolution like that and then immediately be sued and cost them a lot of money. Now, the thing about it is they wouldn't worry about that if they thought they were on firm legal ground. However, they know they're not. And they know that if they put this out there, it's going to cost them a lot of time and a lot of money that they don't have at this time. Our economy is really hurting. And they're going to squander what little money they have on a lawsuit? It's not a good idea.
Down in Blount County, they recently funded a special election to raise a wheel tax. I mean, it's kind of ironic that they're spending money in order to raise a tax, and then here they're undertaking
squandering it again.
This activity that's going to bring them litigation.
When it's not even necessary. They have plenty of rights to practice their religion in their home, in their church, on the street corner if they want to. But no, they've got to practice it in the halls of government, using the power of the government.
Using the PA system that the government bought and paid for.
Right.
Should we continue
Sure.
on here?
Mm-hmm. Moving on to Gideon's handing out Bibles in Cumberland County. They're not just handing out Bibles. Gideons do that all the time. But they're going to the schools, plopping down Bibles and handing them out to the students in the school setting. Now, we have a problem with that.
And they didn't just sneak in the door, right?
No, they had a formal letter. Well, I'm not sure it was a letter inviting them in, but they wrote a letter asking permission, and the school board gave it to them. And the thing about it is, in cases where people can submit to the school that they want to submit literature to the children, the usual policy is that, yes, they can bring them in, set them down, and the students can take them. They cannot have interaction with the students, but that's not what's going on here. They're actually actively proselytizing the children, which is a major problem, separation of church and state.
Now, when we say Cumberland County Schools, this is Crossville, Tennessee?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
All right. And am I remembering there is going to be some kind of a public meeting regarding
There's going to be a meeting tomorrow, Thursday, May 23rd at 6 p.m. at the Cumberland County School. 368 4th Street, Crossville, Tennessee. It will be in the central office boardroom. And if you want to come and make your voice heard, that would be the time to do it.
All righty. Well, I guess on a more positive note, there was something that happened in Arizona. Could maybe Jonas get us caught up on that?
Oh, okay. The headlines goes, atheist state lawmaker quotes Carl Sagan instead of doing prayer before House session. An atheist state lawmaker tasked with delivering the opening prayer for this afternoon's session of the House of Representatives asked that people not bow their heads. Democratic Representative Juan Menendez of Tempe instead spoke about his secular humanist tradition and even quoted author Carl Sagan. Most prayers in this room begin with a request to bow your heads, Mendez said. I would like to ask that you not bow your heads. I would like to ask that you take a moment and look around the room at all of the men and women here, and in this moment, sharing together this extraordinary experience of being alive and dedicating ourselves to working toward improving the lives of all of the people in our state.
As you can imagine, especially now, with Arizona's legislature being controlled by a religion-heavy Republicans, this is probably the first time that an invocation at the legislation took that direction. This is a room in which there were many challenging debates, Mendez says, many moments of tension and ideological division and frustration. But this is also a room where, as my secular humanist tradition stresses, by the very fact of being human, we may have much more in common than we have in differences. We share the same spectrum of potential for care, for compassion, for fear, for joy, and for love.
Well, Mendez continued, Carl Sagan once wrote, for small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love. There certainly aren't many openly atheist politicians across the country, let alone folks bringing their lack of belief in God and or gods to prayer time. So you may remember some controversy about Democratic Congressman, I'm going to mangle her name, Kirsten Sinema, I probably mangled that name as well, who had been described as the only atheist in Congress, even though she rejects the label of atheist. Perhaps it is a coincidence, but many of Mendez's constituents are also called Sinema, their congresswoman.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Mendez, in addition to his God-free invocation, also introduced members of the Secular Coalition for Arizona sitting in the House gallery. One of the members said she was witnessing history. After the invocation, Mendez called himself one of just 1.3 million Arizonians not affiliated with a religious tradition or organization. I hope today marks the beginning of a new era in which Arizona's non-believers can feel as welcome and valued here as believers, he said.
For sure. Okay, in case you're just tuning in, we're going to take our first program break. In case you're just turning in, this is a special showing of the Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday, that is every Tuesday, from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Community Access Television. If you have Comcast, it's Channel 12. Excuse me. Tell your out-of-town friends that they can see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
Oh, these are call-in shows, and like us today, they're live. Today being May 22nd, 2013, and viewers can call in to the number.
We don't have it up
we don't have the phone.
We're not manning the phones.
Our other studio is equipped with telephone, but not here, so we have to make do.
All right.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets 2 times a week. We have evening meetups for fun, food, drink, and conversation. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Go to meetup.com and search for Atheists in Knoxville to find the group.
All right, I guess back to our program. I guess we were going to maybe talk about some commonly misunderstood words.
Maybe we should go with Camp Quest first and give them a little bit of time.
Oh, yeah.
Before we do that.
Are you prepared to...
Okay, I'll try to be kind of brief.
and I think we got a slide for the Camp Quest as well. There we go.
Okay, speaking personally, I believe that children as unique individuals should not be labeled by the beliefs of their parents. One can see the folly in this when the parents have different beliefs, as in that story earlier with the
formerly Hasidic woman.
Hasidic group.
Yeah.
Okay, from birth, children are atheists until indoctrinated by their parents and their community into their belief systems. Often there's no choice. Children learn that there's a price to be paid for being different and choose to conform. This can lead to a lot of stress and sometimes rebellion. Consider, for instance, the Boy Scouts. The Scouts do not accept boys or adults who do not believe in a God. If a non-believing Boy wants to be a Scout, he must lie. So an organization which prides itself on honor and duty ends up forcing boys and adults as well to become liars. As we know, there are many non-believing adults who remain in the closet, living a lie, hiding their non-belief for fear of losing their jobs or a chance for advancement, or their standing in the community or even their family. The situation is not confined to adults. Non-believing children, too, find themselves being threatened with hell, told they are evil, shunned, and bullied if they let their beliefs be known. They cannot say the Pledge of Allegiance without mouthing a lie. For these children, we have created a place of refuge called Camp Quest. Camp Quest is a secular humanist camp for girls and boys 8 through 17. At Camp Quest, children are free to openly discuss their developing belief system with others like themselves. Locally, we have Camp Quest of the Smoky Mountains, established in 2002 as a project of the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Children have returned each year in increasing numbers to be with their friends and enjoy traditional camping activities, including hiking, swimming, canoeing, nature studies and campfire, arts and craft and science-related activities, group games, cooperation to build leadership and community, philosophical discussion, critical thinking, reason, and compassion. They learn about our heroes, the thinkers, philosophers, and martyrs through whose efforts we are no longer burned, tortured, or otherwise killed, at least in the Western world.
At least in the Western world.
It seems that many believing parents are frightened by non-believing children. One of my granddaughters, who was 8 years old at the time, told a parent she was a freethinker. This was after she spent a session at Camp Quest. I don't know if she knew what a freethinker was, but thereafter, her neighborhood friend was not allowed to play with her. Similar experiences have been related by other campers at Camp Quest. To me, achieving the eventual rights of free speech for our children, as well as adults, has become a crusade. If people say many atheists are angry, we have a right to be, for we have been intimidated much too long.
Yes, indeed.
Sure.
May I ask a question? I think there's a Camp Quest being organized this summer. I think you're kind of full at this time.
Yeah, we're nearing capacity, although we are accepting additional counselors.
A few slots. The point of my question is, there are other secular summer camps around the nation. So just because we're getting full locally doesn't mean that there might not be an opportunity to find one where there's still some available slots?
But then maybe not. In some recent communications with the Camp Quest organization, a great many of the camps are full and have waiting lists, in spite of the fact that the number of camps has almost exploded over the past couple of years. So we see a real growth in awareness of this youth movement.
Well, that's I guess it's great to hear that there's plenty of demand. I certainly hope that youngsters who want to get to a camp this year can find a slot at a place that is either, if not convenient, at least interesting to visit.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
earlier in the show, we mentioned that we would be talking about certain words that are bandied around quite a bit in the Freethought movement. Theism, atheism, agnosticism. We need to take a look at these words so that we understand what they are and can use them intelligently. Theism is a belief, and is having a belief in a god or gods. If you're a Christian or a Hindu or anybody who believes in a god, you're a theist. And the opposite of that, meaning you have no beliefs in God, is atheism. A meaning without a belief in God. Atheism itself does not make any claims about the existence of God. It doesn't say there is no God. It says we don't believe that there's a God. Now, agnosticism, a lot of people think that that is a position in between, that you're not really sure if it's God or not, if there's God or not. But really, agnosticism is a position in your state of knowledge or professed state of knowledge pertaining to gods or gods. Gnosticism, the word Gnostic, means, it comes from the Greek word Gnostic and means knowledge. And it speaks to your knowledge of God or your professed knowledge of God. Agnosticism is not a position halfway between believer and non-believer.
So if we dig into that, what we have with theism are two situations here where we would say, I believe or I don't believe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then Gnosticism says, I know enough or I don't know enough. It's a statement about the confidence in your knowledge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so how do you self-identify?
Well, the important thing to realize is that both of these words, agnosticism and atheism, are not mutually exclusive. You can have several combinations of that. Personally, I'm an agnostic atheist, which means I don't know that there's not any kind of God out there. The tribal god of the Juju Islands in the South Pacific could be the real God. I don't know. But I can't say for sure that there's no God out there. You can't prove a negative. But I don't believe in a God, and that's where atheism comes in. So I'm an agnostic atheist. Now, if I were being adamant about it and thought that I could prove through logic that no God exists, and I felt that I had knowledge that there's no God, then I would be a Gnostic atheist. I would say there is no God, which I don't, but the Gnostic atheist would, but I don't believe in him. Then there's the agnostic theist. That would be a theist, a person who believes in God, but says that they don't have any knowledge for sure that he exists. They just believe in him. Now, the far end of the scale is Gnostic theist. This is where most Christians fall in. They say, I believe in God and I know he's real. So they're talking about belief and knowledge, both with a positive spin on it, as it were.
There's another version of theism called deism. And the founders of
That's a good point.
Well, many
country,
of the founders, but not
many of them were deists. Now, they believe that there is a God who created the universe and set it in motion. And once it was set in motion, then this God steps back and lets it run itself. This is opposed to those who think of a more anthropomorphic kind of God.
He doesn't listen to prayers. He doesn't interact with people. He doesn't have any laws that he lays down for people. He created the universe and that's it, basically.
I always like to remark on deism that I first read a description of that belief written by Thomas Paine, and it would have been in the late 1700s. And it strikes me very much like he describes the universe just like a physicist describes equations of motion and initial conditions for how we model events. And so I wonder if the growing knowledge of science in the late 1700s actually then was reflected in deism, in that they say, yes, just like when I'm going to drop a ball, I talk about its initial height and velocity, and then the motion that it has after.
Right. Well, they say that until Darwin came along, they really had no answer about how people are so much different than animals. But Darwin answered that question. But before Darwin, they really didn't have any recourse, and they had to say, well, some kind of God created us, and that's where deism served the founding fathers a lot. One thing, though, I've noticed that when people use the word agnostic in our society, they generally mean that they don't really know if they believe or not. They're misusing the word, and I'm not sure that there is a word in our language right now for that position. We should either coin one, or the undecided person should just say they don't really know if they believe. How about it? What's a good word for that? You can't use agnostic because that doesn't address belief. You can't use theism because it's an on-off position. You can either believe or you don't. But what's a good word to describe if you're uncertain in your belief? Atheist or quasi-theist? We need to have a new word for that.
Well, I don't have anything on the top of my head off of that one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my goodness, we're running out of time here. We haven't spoken about RET. Maybe we should spend a minute on that.
Okay.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee is a group that meets on the first and third Sunday mornings at the Pellissippi Hardin Valley campus for lively discussions and presentations. The second Sunday of the month is book club. This month's book is Collapsed by Jared Diamond. And we encourage you to check out our website, rationalists with an S on the end, .org. All right. Got about a minute left here. What have we missed covering, Larry?
No, that's about it. I have a thing about what do atheists believe, but we don't have enough time to get into that right now.
All right. Let's talk about our regular show.
Okay. It's 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock every Tuesday on this channel. And then we have a happy hour meetup afterwards, so you're welcome to come down and join us.
All right. And you can send feedback to us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com. Tell your friends that they can watch on CTV KNOX. We have a regular call-in from somewhere in Illinois.
Yeah. The phone lines will be open, so you can call in and talk to us in those shows.
All right.
So we would like to send our thanks to Sam. Jonas, am often answering the telephone. Faithless for technical support, and
novel
Larry,
spelling.
And Larry is our program producer. Go.
We're nuns, none of the above. We're the fastest growing religious group in America, right here in East Tennessee, the Atheists.